two, so it was a compromise of sorts.
Am I remember correctly, at one stage the idea was it would have subtitles when it played around the rest of the world because of the Yorkshire voice?
It did. Well, I think there was always the idea that going abroad, certainly for the United States, and that was accepted that might possibly be the case. But of course, like the British, the Americans don't like the idea of subtitles. The art houses do, but that's about it. But no, the idea was, and I think Ken and Tony laughed about it, was actually south of Nottingham would have a subtitle, and that was the idea.
I bet the librarian spoke posh, though. Zoe Sunderland, hello.
Hello there.
You were that librarian.
I was that librarian.
How did you get that job?
How did I get the job?
Yeah.
Well, what happened was when the film crew came in and they looked at the female members of the staff and they said they would like volunteers to have an audition for the part, and I believe there were 3 of us that auditioned, and they said, play out a scenario where you have somebody awkward coming into the library, how would you deal with it? Using our own words, and they picked me from the 3 of us.
You'd not been there very long?
I hadn't been there very long whatsoever, no. I'd only been there about just under a year, I believe, when I got the part.
And had you read the book?
I hadn't read the book, no.
Did you know it was going to happen when Billy Casper came into your library then?
Well, they had briefed me about what was going to happen. There wasn't really a script as such. We were told the rough guidelines of what had to happen, and we worked around that, really.
Did you find that easy?
No, it was quite difficult because, of course, I'm not a professional actor.
Well, that's presumably his deliberate policy, isn't it, Ken? I mean, that's what he does.
It must have been, yes, because there were quite a few amateurs there. And it was a real experience, to be perfectly honest, quite exciting at the time.
Has your career blossomed as a result?
No. I don't think so. No, I've never heard from anybody since then. But
have you? But are you still recognised from it?
Up to a few years ago. I'm 60 now, so...
You're not?
I was only 23 then.
I think there are people going to be weeping at that as well.
Yeah, well, I'm 61 this year.
I don't believe you.
I was only 23 when the film...
You're forever that librarian.
Yeah, when it was filmed. So it's a long, long time ago. But yes, I was recognised. I'd find myself in a pub situation somewhere, and all of a sudden I'd feeling like somebody's looking at me. And 2 people, like two doors down from me, would be, excuse me, but do you mind me asking, were you on Kes? Never, because this might be 20 years after the film had taken place.
Isn't it odd in a way you were playing yourself as well, weren't you?
I was playing myself in a way, yes. But as I say, it was very, very difficult because of all the lights, all the sound systems around, all the things that were going on around that were different to the norm in the library. So it was very different.
But the library was still open throughout the whole thing? The
library was open, yes, and we did have an incident, actually. While we were actually filming, while they were doing one of the takes, Di Bradley and myself were talking, carrying through the scene, and a little old lady came in with a library book, and she really didn't notice anything. She didn't notice the lights, anything different about the library. All she focused on was this young lad who was actually arguing, having the audacity to argue
in
with
a library.
And she came up, she gave him a right. And it was so funny because, she'd obviously not noticed anything.
That should have ended up in the film, shouldn't it?
Well, I think it was considered at the time. They kept the film, presumably the footage. It actually wasn't put in the film in the end.
Is it true that you didn't go to the premiere of it in March 1970 at the ABC in Barnsley because you were too shy?
I didn't go to the premiere. I was so nervous of seeing myself on screen.
How long's it taken you to see it?
It's taken me absolutely years. You won't believe this, but I didn't see the film until about 5 years ago.
I think that's amazing. And what did you think when you saw yourself?
Well, I didn't think I was very good, to be honest. I'd got this, kept looking at the camera once or twice, and I thought, well... But by then, it's too long ago to worry about it, to be honest.
Well, she was brilliant, Summer, wasn't she?
Absolutely wonderful, yes, perfect.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I was an amateur, so...
what do you think of the film now?
Oh, I think the film's marvellous. I've got it on a DVD now, of course, and I really like to watch it. It's a very, very good film.
And have you read the book?
I have read the book, yes.
And?
Well, I love the book as well. I'm a big reader, being a librarian.
I thought so.
It's a long time since I did read it, but I have read it in the past.
Thank you very much, Zoe. There you are, you see, the story of Kes and the people who've been in it. And if you get hold of Simon's book, it's full of stories like that, interviews with people who were involved in the making of that film. That kind of search for truthfulness, an old lady coming up in the middle of a library and correcting it, goes through your whole account of how Ken Loach works. For me, the most disturbing thing in the entire book is what happened to Martin Harley.
Yes, certainly, and I think I'd heard rumours before when I actually started the research about the caning scene, and I think Di Bradley had mentioned that there were certain aspects of it where they went on strike because of this strike that they didn't expect to get. And obviously this disturbing realisation that the young lad, I think Martin was probably about 12, I think, at the time. He was in his first year, or 11 or 12. Quite sort of macabre in a way that he actually received the cane, you know, and been filmed as well, you know. Although it's a very important scene, you just wonder, like you said, that the lengths that they went to get this reaction. You know?
Am I right in understanding it? You've got a situation where the scene's being filmed. He knows he's going to play a part in it. He knows he's going to join that queue of smokers outside the head teacher's,
That's
Mr.
correct.
Grice, isn't it? Mr. Grice's study. And that Mr. Grice is going to wallop them for smoking.
Yes.
He arrives there and presumably knows that he's the lad who's turned up with a message and isn't really a smoker at all. Indeed, he's only about 3 inches high.
Yes,
and that
that's
he's
right.
going to get caned. He knows that there'll be a simulation of that.
Yes.
What actually happens is that he is really caned.
Yes, they did say. Ken said to the group, what again? They troop into the headmaster's study, and we're going to raise a cane. But what we'll do, we won't bring it down your hand, basically. And of course, he went round. That first shot, they went round the lot and gave them the cane, which I think the worst thing was that, as boys probably know, there's a certain way of presenting your hand that you don't.
If you know you're going to be.
You're going to be caned, yes,
Yeah.
which makes it even more painful. And one of the disturbing things that actually Martin had said. That when you actually see the DVD, he'd been told. I mean, I don't think it's something that he enjoys watching, but to put it mildly, you can actually see the black mark on his hand where the first caning struck home.
I find your description really disturbing, and I think I have to say I think Ken Loach was wrong. However wonderful the consequence, I think he was quite wrong. But it is also one of the strongest, most extraordinary moments in the film, where, if you didn't know that anyway, where you would be genuinely moved to tears, like the boy was,
Yes, real
furiously cross, and laughing about it because of the absolute example of injustice and how the system. So in every way, it's a remarkable and wonderful moment, but it's achieved by brutalising a kid.
Yes.
Where do you stand on that?
Well, it's one of those. You imagine if we've moved on that they wouldn't happen now. And the only comfort I can draw from is that the madness stopped there. You know, that there was because I think this first time ever that this what happens, and Ken does say that it was only what's happening up and down the country, but that doesn't make any difference. That innocent children, you know, which they were at the end of the day, they were children, and I think that's where you step away, and I think that the ultimate one who's responsible is Ken Loach, obviously, and Tony Garnett, obviously, and I think they do, and this is
They played a trick on those kids, didn't they?
They did play a trick, and it had I think on the others it didn't have such a profound effect on them. I think they just thought, you know, they'd been caught out. Martin certainly looked at it differently. And it was because of the age, and like you said, the tears were real, and I don't think necessarily it affected him that much at the time, as much, you know. I think later when people sort of looked at the film, commented on it, and then I think that started to work against him even more so.
He's still quite bitter about it in your account in the book, isn't he?
Yes, I mean, time obviously, time has passed now, and I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but it's still something that Martin finds difficult to talk about, because and this was the only reason he actually spoke to me, was to put his point across, and to put his point across to the filmmakers, and this, I think, would appeal to him. This was his way of saying, this is what happened with me with a child. And this was wrong. Yeah,
I think that's true. And your book gets all those different voices, including he's generous enough to have his mother saying she loves the film. So he's at the end of all that. We're following the story of some of the people who appeared in Kes and who appear in the book that Simon Golding's written called Life After Kes, and we'll do some more of that after the break. It's BBC Radio Sheffield. If you have got a phone call, you want to join this conversation, you can. I want to hear a bit about Barry Hines' brother. I'd forgotten that bit in the story as well. Meanwhile, we're talking about real actors and people who've done wonderful things. I'm in the company of Simon Golding. I'm going to talk to Trevor Hesketh. Trevor, hello.
Hello.
Tell us about the part of Trevor Hesketh you played in Kes, which was the part of Trevor Hesketh.
Well, it was the part of Mr. Crossley in the script, and I was the form teacher and marking the register in the film, and that seemed to go down well. I believe they wanted me to use my own name because of equity problems, perhaps. I mean, all the other people were either in equity or associated with the Variety Artists Association and things like that.
Yeah.
So at least I got my bits in, which
you did.
I'm very pleased about.
What do you think, looking back on it, Trevor?
Oh, it's been a wonderful experience. I shall remember it for the rest of my life. I'm 80 now, by the way.
Good heavens.
About ages, about all these other people.
Yeah.
And, yes, it's been wonderful. And it didn't alter my career in any way, except I got promoted in the school, but I stayed at the same school until I retired.
Did you indeed?
Yes.
And you were the real Billy Casper's form teacher?
That's right, yes.
So how could you bear to stay in such a terrible school as had been portrayed in Kes?
Not a bit like that, and the people who made the film were at great lengths to show that the school was not like the one in the book or the film. And we were very caring.
So you mean Barry Hines lied, did he then?
Barry Hines was writing a work of fiction, yes. You can't blame him at all on that.
Do you think he got it right for some kids from Barnsley and the areas? I mean, that sort of way in which the system treated people then maybe still does it, Trevor? I don't know.
It still does, I believe, yes. But, no, I think we did our best at the schools to bring the best out in the children. It's pointed out about the school pantomimes and things like that really brought out the best of the children, in the children.
Yeah.
And in the nature of the things at the time, there was a great deal of creaming from schools to give children a better opportunity.
Which left the schools that he was left at with no opportunities at all.
That's right, in general, yes.
What do you feel looking back on the film now? Do you think it was a great film?
I do now, yes. I mean, we were thinking in terms of a B-feature film originally.
Really?
Certainly went on from there. It's been very gratifying indeed.
Do people recognise you?
Yes, it's amazing. I haven't changed a great deal, a little thin on top, and perhaps a little less plump than I was in the film.
Yes.
But, yes, people do recognise me.
Do they shout at you?
No. I was going to mention Martin Harley, because from my perspective, I saw the caning as it happened, and Martin was a very jocular character, a very cheerful little lad, and he giggled a great deal. That was his big problem. And as he was being caned, he was giggling, which didn't lend to the film at all. And, of course, everybody was being paid, I think it was 10 bob for each stroke. That was sort of Martin's only part, and he was cashing in on it a bit. This is serious.
Yeah.
He was trying to cash in on it. And then after they'd actually got that rather hard whack, which, well, I won't comment on that now in these days, anti-corporal punishment and so on. After that, in the script, he had to go outside and be sick. So they took him outside to be filmed, filled his mouth with a Scotch broth, and filmed him being sick in a drain, and he did nothing but laugh. And they tried this, I don't know how many takes on this, till the film crew were literally turning their backs on him. They just couldn't bear to watch him being sick, so that was cut out completely. They didn't succeed on that one with him. So... anyway, good luck to Martin.
Yeah, thank you ever so much, Trevor, for joining us as well. So that's as it were, the other side of that.